Hello, I'm Robin Gibson, and this is the Harvard House Money Morsel. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell so you get a notification of when we're releasing a new video. I'm back after having been away, and Jana deputized very well for me, and I'm sitting today with Willie Pelser. Hello, Willie.
Robin, good morning. Thank you.
So, Willie, one of the things that we find quite often with clients is we live in a world where the news flow gets to your phone from events everywhere instantly, and people kind of rush in and they go, oh, well, shouldn't I be getting out of the markets? What's this going to do to the markets? And we always talk about the fact that there's a disconnect between the news cycle and where it goes, share prices, which sometimes follows that news cycle, and the actual earnings of companies and the dividend payments underneath it. So, I mean, we're sitting again with Trump and his shenanigans, and there's a lot to be concerned about. The GNU and our police chief.
About the police,
Yeah, our police chief, and I see we've got a family meeting on Sunday,
Yes.
and I predict he's not going to do anything. But anyway, can we just chat around this disconnect and kind of how we deal with that internally as a house?
Yeah, Robin, as you say, there's a total disconnect because what you've just pictured is what we read, what people read. And then you flip the page on the newspaper or whatever you're on, your social media, up or down, whatever. And then you see the markets are all over the world at new all-time highs.
Yes.
And you think, but hey, what's cooking? How is this actually possible? I think that's the concern in markets is that disconnect. And people sell or buy stuff based on the trumpet or based on something small inside. So yeah, Robin, I think as we often say to clients, we need to go into the granular data. You need to go at the level where we've actually lent money to the management of a company to do business on our behalf, and they need to work through these concepts of saying, what's the tariff impact on myself? Take the citrus farmers in South Africa as an example. They've been warned this is coming, from a political and a political environment in the US. They need to adapt. So the management of a company needs to adapt, type of thing. So we obviously go through that process of looking what is the underlying business, what is really changing, from the noise. Is this, tariffs will have an impact. Let's just face that.
Yeah.
But what's the magnitude of that type of thing? So, and Robin, we can, I can go into lots of examples type of thing, but I think another point to highlight on that is to look at, what we do is look at the free cash flow, what is the profits generated, and then the free cash flow, actually the company decide to bring it through in a dividend, and that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
So on the noise principle, Robin, let's add another one, which I can then use as an example of how we trade or sort of implement portfolios. The new thing in South Africa is this big thing about our unemployment rate.
Yes.
The Stats SA numbers come out, and I'm not using decimals for this thing. We're talking 34%. Youth is almost 70% unemployed. So again, if you look at that number and you look at everything so far in South Africa, the last 15 years, we shouldn't be in the South African market, because everything is so negative. But then you look at, it's Harry Fourie from Capitec. Capitec has data. They've got bank accounts. Gigi Alcock, we've mentioned him before in here. He operates in the informal sector. He's got data. And then there's a third party, fourth parties, whatever with these services. They say we're closer to 10% of unemployment.
Yes.
And it's purely the definition. And I think you and I, we both listened to Harry and to Gigi on an interview saying, how do they get to that? Remember, I mentioned the data. So on the data, Capitec sitting with bank accounts.
Yes.
And they analyze it.
Yeah.
And through that analysis, and I'm not going to go into the specific detail, but that's how they get to the sort of 10% unemployment.
Yes.
Saying, the rate is unemployed, but they say people are employed because the bank account shows them that, because there's cash flow coming into that account. So, and it's not, they all stated this, that's not the data of a social grant. These are additional money, because the social grant It has got a SSA, whatever number on it.
Yes.
The rest is I'm doing business, whether I
Yeah,
sell a tomato on the corner of the street, whether I've got a small little building shop or whatever. So that happens. So that data coming back, that's that's why people invest in Capitec as an example. In that informal space, and I'll lead into another company just to get to the dividend flow or the company flow and so on. There's transactions happening in those environments. We all know this. You go to someone even at a flea market, they have a little device, and there's a payment system going through that. There's a company in South Africa called Capital Appreciation. They operate in the space of the technology behind these platforms. They're working on new technology that every phone in the world can become a payment system, the POS. So that we analyze that data, and it shows that this company is operating in all spaces, formal and informal, and they're actually generating free cash flow. They're generating the profits, escalating profits. And what we're seeing, analyzing that business at the moment for potential investment on behalf of clients, has got an excellent dividend track record. That's what we put in. That's again despite the news that South Africa is unemployed. So just an example, Roman, I think from a news headline perspective, what's really happening, and then in your portfolio, the fact that we're at all-time highs is to your benefit through the way we invest. It's not to say that markets always go up. Trump might do something tomorrow, or Cyril might go worst case scenario on Sunday. Who knows? But that's the news. But on Monday morning, people will still go and buy a Coke.
Yes, so. Exactly. And the formal economy will keep going. Willie, I know that what very often happens, we talk about companies, we've talked about 2 companies now, and we'll be out and about, and I'll have an investor who'll come over me and go, I've got my investment statement here. You talked about this on Money Morsel, and I don't see my Capitec or Capital Appreciation. I mean, in terms of matching the right shares for a client's individual circumstances, there are times when we won't buy that particular share for particular clients because it just doesn't suit what we're trying to do in terms of their particular needs. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Robin, exactly. But also remember, shares do get overvalued.
Yes.
There is a principle, if you look at all the mechanics within the financial statement and so on, the PE principle. So they might be trading at an excessive PE, which means I don't want to invest in this company right now, because for them to catch up to this price, their revenue, their profit has to do some serious performance to get there, because that's hype. I've just talked about capital appreciation. Now everybody jumps in and buy the share price. They don't look at the fundamentals. So that's the timing principle. So you might be at a phase where you do that. You've got money in clients' portfolios, and then for a while it's overvalued. We're not buying it. And that's probably the time that a client looks and say, okay, but I don't have this share or that share. It's just because it's not in our cycle of accumulating at this point in time or buying new. So that's the principle.
Or the dividend yield is not appropriate for the income that they need. I mean, that's also a
factor. Because some of these companies that we're talking about, dividend yields of 1 or 2%. If I only have 1% dividend yield in a portfolio that requires 5%, they might think that the company is the best things in sliced bread, but they can't eat because they don't get the dividend. So those are some of the reasons.
Great. Awesome, Willie. Thanks for giving us that insight. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.